Okay, quick thing before the actual content of this video begins. I know this video is different from what I usually upload, but this is a topic that I do care about. Over 6 years ago, the creator of FNAF, Scott Cawthon, made a post to Reddit. It was a post that has become quite important to the franchise, with many people latching onto its words for use in theories. Particularly, Scott's mentioning of using sister location to clear up a, quote, misconception from FNAF 4, was used as significant evidence during the whole "which year did this kid get chomped" debate. He also states that, and quote, "There have been times, however, when my original intentions didn't come across clearly. In those instances, I make a point to clarify in the next game." This sentence helped to identify to those hunting for the story that checking the next game was sometimes a good idea in helping solve the previous release, which is something we really need with Security Breach. I mean, still, please explain what the hell is going on in this. But anyway, I want to focus on a part that, to my knowledge, has been more widely ignored by the community. In the same post, yeah, it's a pretty important post, I guess, Scott mentions that he has done, quote, one actual retcon in the series. In an edit to the post later, he clarified that this retcon was integrated pretty seamlessly and that most people didn't notice. However, in a game where the lore and backstory is dependent on how many buttons are on Toy Freddy's chest, and of course whether Chica has a beak or not, the tiniest change could have the biggest outcome. So this video asks, what was the retcon that Scott Cawthon did? Now, this isn't a cut and dry question. I'm not just going to be able to state an answer and know that it's 100% accurate. Nothing is in the FNAF franchise. However, we can narrow our search pretty quickly by looking at basic information. The post itself was made on September 5th, 2017, at least in Australian time. I think it was probably posted on the 4th for most of you. This means that anything made after this date can be removed from contention. This rules us down to the first 5 games, up to Sister Location, FNAF World, and the first 2 books, Silver Eyes and Twisted Ones, with the Forced Closet not coming out until 2018. So, we've got our list. What next? Well, for Scott to make a retcon, we're assuming that a part of the story that he didn't like has been changed, and was important enough to change even though no one noticed. This means that I want to rule out FNAF World, Sister Location, as well as the Twisted Ones, the second novel. Why? Well, first of all, FNAF World. It was, well, weird. Its lore never really made sense anyway, and it felt like that entire game was, for lack of a better word, retconned. That's called foreshadowing. Furthermore, FNAF World doesn't seem important enough to retcon. The lore within it seems silly and goofy, as opposed to the not silly and goofy living animatronics made from evil springs killing a child because it's crying. As such, I think it makes sense to rule the game out of contention for the retcon. The Twisted Ones has a much easier explanation. The book came out only a few months before this post. As the most recent release, Scott also could not have had time to retcon anything in it. This same logic can be applied to Sister Location, especially if you want to assume that the retcon was of a game and definitely not of a book. So, with that all out of the way, we're left with FNAF 1 through to FNAF 4, Sister Location, maybe, and Silver Eyes. So, what then could be considered retconnable? Look, I'm sorry, I had to start with this one. The bite of 87 is obviously a contender due to the FNAF 4 bite. People will still argue today that it happened in 1987, even though I feel like the majority of the evidence suggests otherwise. However, the piece that rules us out the most is the same post from Scott Cawthon. As I said at the start of the video, the post has become quite important to the franchise, with many people latching onto its words for use in theories. Particularly, Scott's mentioning of using Sister Location to clear up a, quote, misconception from FNAF 4, was used as significant evidence during the whole "which year did this kid get chomped" debate. The biggest misconception in FNAF 4 was the bite. Easily. However, the fake ending helped us with the solution, giving us the code 1983 for the cameras. The same 1983 that appeared on the TV show Fredbear and Friends in FNAF 4. Because of this, I'm going to rule out the byte of 87 from being retconned. Hey, that foreshadowing is done. Now, to clear things up, FNAF World pretty much did get retconned. Update 2.0 definitely showed that, with a change from looking to the past to the perspective of looking to the future. As such, much of the original story just fizzled out, replaced by a creepy robotic Foxy telling you about madness. Thanks for the nightmares, Scott. However, going back to the post, FNAF World was definitely not the retcon. Why? Because in his description of the retcon, Scott specifically states that minimal people noticed the retcon. And update 1.2 for FNAF World was pretty significant. As such, I think it would be weird for Scott to be referencing this update and change to the original story of FNAF World as just a small retcon to the story. Now, this one I've heard before, and it's one that actually I don't mind. In the FNAF 2 Save Him minigame, we see a kid murdered outside a FNAF restaurant. In FNAF 6, this is confirmed to be the daughter of Henry. However, a daughter probably isn't a he. Slam dunk, video over, subscribe to my channel, except for one small problem. The character killed in FNAF 2 is never confirmed to be a girl until FNAF 6, posted after the message from Scott about a retcon. So slam dunk, this can't be the answer. Except if we turn to the place where all FNAF theorists go to die. The books. In the Silver Eyes novel, released between FNAF 4 and FNAF World, Charlie is directly named as a child of Henry. Okay, I'll stop that now. The reason this isn't likely is because the child murdered in the FNAF 2 minigame is not quite confirmed to be Henry's child until FNAF 6. However, given the future direction of the franchise, Scott making the character a female in the books could have been a retcon required so as to ensure the future of this series, specifically FNAF 6 and the daughter of Henry, would work. On the topic of FNAF 2 minigames, Foxy Go 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 is, to me, the most likely thing that was retconned by Scott Cawthon. In this game, Foxy runs out to perform for a crowd of children. However, on the third occasion of this, he runs past Purple Guy to see 5 dead children. There are a few reasons I think this was retconned. First of all, this event is never mentioned again. And I mean never. It's not really clear what the purpose of these kids are, who they possess, or what they do. Now, yes, sure, someone out there is writing an angry comment saying, "These are the missing children, JSLM, dislike and unsubscribe." To which I reply, these children are not missing, like and subscribe. In the newspaper clippings in FNAF 1, we learn that the missing children are not found because they disappear off camera in the safe rooms. However, according to the layout of Foxy Go Go Go, as well as a camera layout from FNAF 1, these bodies are smack in the middle of the dining area, where a camera would definitely see them. As such, these can't be the kids who disappeared at the FNAF 1 location. So, who are they? Well, I don't know. Their existence seems to have been largely forgotten, and as such, I believe that these 5 kids, another 5 murdered children, have been retconned by Scott Cawthon. If you want to end the video here, I don't blame you. What comes next is just some hardcore evidence to further back up my belief that these kids are the actual retcon. So the main question I offer is, why do these kids exist? Well, if we're thinking about this from a timeline perspective, we know that FNAF 2 is a prequel to FNAF 1. However, we also know that, at FNAF 2, They have the toy robots with facial recognition technology which is surely hunting the purple guy. As such, I believe these kids might have been Scott's way of making FNAF 1 open before and after FNAF 2. Scott would have had the missing children's incident take place before 1987, so that the original animatronics can be possessed, which nowadays actually lines up with the theory that the missing children's incident happens in 1985. And therefore, the deaths of the children seen in the Foxy Go 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 minigame would be the deaths that happened to shut down FNAF 1 for the final time. Except for one small problem. Scott has already explained why FNAF 1 shuts down for the final time. In the newspaper clippings in FNAF 1, it is stated that after a long struggle to stay in business after the tragedy that happened there many years ago, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has announced that it will close by year's end. Basically, FNAF 1 was shut down for the second time, not due to a second set of murders, but due to the fact that the company name was tarnished due to the many dark events that had happened there, namely the missing children's incident. So is this the part where I just say it's just a theory?